Hello everybody, I just wanted to make a quick tutorial for AutoSplit and how to set it up for SMB1 any percent on console and the MiSTer FPGA system. So first of all I'm going to show how you install it and set it up. So I will include all the links that you need in the description. So this is the release page, and at the bottom of the release page you'll find the assets here. So for most people you want to download this one for Windows. There is Linux versions as well, but I don't know anything about those, so you can read the main page. It'll show how to install it for Linux, but this will be what everyone, or mostly everyone, will want to download. So you want to extract that somewhere you'll remember. So for me, it is just on my hard drive. So yeah, just extract it into a folder, name it whatever, AutoSplit. And then you'll want to create another folder in here. I just called mine split image folder, but you can call it whatever. But this is where you'll need this later on, and you might as well just make it whilst you're here. But it's just where the image comparison is saved for AutoSplit. So yeah. Then we need to install the AutoSplit integration for livesplit. So this is a livesplit component, so it's just a .dll file. So I'll include this link as well. And you just want to click here to download the file. It'll say that it's like an unverified file. You just want to press download anyway. It's all safe and everything. You can see all the code on GitHub here, and you can like recompile it yourself and everything. So yeah. So once you've downloaded that, you want to put that into your livesplit components folder, which will be in your like livesplit root folder. So you just need to find that. And then yeah, so you just want to put it in components here and just put it anywhere in here. If you already have livesplit open, you'll want to close and reopen it, I think, because I don't think it shows up unless you do that. But once you open it, you just want to go into right click here and edit layout. And then here you can press this plus and go to control AutoSplit Integration. And once you've added that, you can go into the layout settings here and go here. And then you want to just direct livesplit to the path of autosplit.exe and the settings file, which will be in the folder you extracted earlier. So from here you can start autosplit, and you can also kill it if it starts like not responding or something, which is useful. But you can also do that here. If you right click and go into control, you can also control it here, which is very useful for just making it so you don't need to go and find AutoSplit and open it every time. That's one of the reasons you want the integration. The other reason is that it gives you hotkeys. It automatically adds the hotkeys that you have in livesplit into AutoSplit here. So as you can see in AutoSplit, when you open it, these hotkeys, it doesn't let me change them because it says it's externally controlled, so it's controlled by livesplit. If you didn't want to install the integration for whatever reason, you can just manually set your start split and reset split here. But if you have the livesplit integration, you shouldn't need to. So here's my settings as well whilst we're here. So image settings, there's things like similarity threshold and pause time and everything. I'll try and explain all this later. Hopefully that should make sense by the end of this video. I currently have loop last split image to first split image checked. That's for like a minor bug fix thing. So yeah, I would just check it and copy what I do. But I'll explain that in greater detail later. So in capture settings, you want to just have all of the same settings as I do here. So when it comes to actually capturing the game, you want to have AutoSplit here. And you can select region, which basically just gives you an opportunity to drag on your screen where you want it to capture. So it's capturing from Amarek, and it's selecting a little square on the screen, a little rectangle. And Now what this is actually just the world counter. So that's how I split, is I have it to check the world counter, and if it has a similarity of over 0.95, it splits. I think this is a really good comparison point because it's only the threshold's only ever even close to 0.95 when it's like correctly on the right level. So that's why I've done that. The only problem with this setup is that it doesn't split on the X. I don't really know a way that you can make it split on the X yet. If people have any ideas, or if you figure it out, feel free to comment down below, because it would be cool if it was completely self-sufficient. But yeah, it's currently, it can reset and start and split, but not split on the last split, because I just don't know what to do in that situation. So that split has to be manual. Anyway, yeah, so you want to select the region, which is just the world 1-1 here. And that's like live, it's like capturing Amarek and capturing that little bit. So that's all well and good, but you know, you actually need the split images. So this is your split image folder here. You want to make sure that that is the folder that you created in the AutoSplit folder earlier. It doesn't have to be here. I just think it makes sense to be there. You can just make the folder wherever, but just to have it all contained in the AutoSplit folder, I feel like makes sense. So yeah, you want to make sure that's selected. So yeah. So I would offer to give the images that I've already created, like to have a download link for them, but I feel as though it won't work properly because it's highly dependent on your capture quality and settings. So if you have, like, I don't know, the blue background might be slightly different on your capture than on mine, and if that's the case, it just won't work at all. So you kind of need to create it yourself, unfortunately. I wish I could just give you all the images. It would make it a lot easier, but yeah, unfortunately you kind of have to create it yourself. It's not that hard. You just have to like play through the game and keep pressing this button. So take screenshot. This basically just saves a photo of this capture region and saves it into that folder. So it saves a PNG of it. And then it'll like name it appropriately. So it'll name it like 001 split image. So yeah. So I'll show you all of the split images that I have. So I've got a 1-1, black background 1-2, 4-1, black background 4-2. So these are all just when you would split in the actual, like if you were just using livesplit normally. So aside from 1-1, I'll explain why I've got this 1-1 thing later, because it might be confusing, because you know you never split when it says 1-1. I'll explain why I've done this later. It's linked to why I had the setting for looping the thing. But yeah, everything else is just as you'd expect. So 1-2 with the black background, this is like what the world counter looks like when you're on the loading screen after 1-1. 4-1 with the blue background, this is what the world counter looks like after the loading screen when you start 4-1, which is when you would split in a normal run, and so on. So yeah, you just basically want to press take screenshot whenever you're in the black screen between 1-1 and 1-2, anytime in 4-1, black screen in 4-2, anytime in 8-1, then black screen 8-2 and 8-3, and then 8-4. So yeah, this will split all the way up to 8-4, but it won't split on 8-4, if that makes sense. So you will need to press your split button when you hit the X. Not that it really matters at that point. It's much more important to have all these splits than the final split. The final split doesn't really matter whatsoever. But it's sometimes nice to have the live split show the time that you got properly. And I've also created an image here, which is reset and start AutoSplitter. So this is how it works in regards to starting it and resetting it automatically. So the way that I've done this, I'm quite proud of this because I think it's quite a smart way to do this. It only works with the Duck Hunt cartridge. I mean, that's the only thing I've tested it with. You definitely could find alternatives for the other cartridges. Not sure about the standalone cartridge. Maybe there'd be some way to do it. I don't know. But this is quite good because, as you can see, the reset is just a brown rectangle and the start is just a black rectangle. So if I just reset my console here, you'll see that when it goes to that brown thing, which it's just like this little bit here, it resets, and then it's waiting for this to turn into a black, like for this bit to go black, which is what it'll do once you press start, and then that'll start your timer. So, you know, if I go onto here, it resets. When I go into here, it starts. So it's really good in that way. The only problem with it being is that when you press start on this screen, it doesn't go to the black screen immediately. Like when you are splitting manually, you'll press split and press the start button on your controller at the same time. That's just how you're supposed to do it as far as I'm aware. And also, you have to remember that this AutoSplit is looking at your capture card footage. So it's not going to be like, it could be a little bit delayed based on what capture card you have and what settings you have and all of that. So that is why I have my livesplit at minus 8.36. So normally I would use 8.52 for the frame rule that I go for on my PB. But I basically, to find the proper way to account for this like slight delay before the black screen and in the capture card, I basically recorded the footage and the live split, and then I just split as I normally would, like started the timer as I normally would when I press start, and then I just tracked what time my live split showed when this turned into a black screen, if that makes sense. Actually, I've got a video here. This program's called Lossless Cut, but it's a really great program. So as you can see here, I've got two capture cards plugged in actually, but as you can see, I've started the timer already. It's counting down, and then there's a little bit of a delay. So this capture card has less delay. This one's my main one that has a little bit more delay. So as you can see, it's 8.43 when it goes fully black there. And then this one is 8.38. I did kind of change it a little bit because this says 8.38 for 2 frames, so I feel like I've just went with 8.36 because it's kind of like in the middle of these two values. But yeah, so that's how I figured out the appropriate delay to do. So don't copy what I've done exactly because it will be different based on your capture card. I think with HDMI capture cards, like if you have an RGB modded console or using a MiSTer, sometimes they can have a little bit of delay, especially if you have like buffering enabled. So you will need to do this because it just won't be very accurate if you just leave it how it normally is. With like a GV USB 2, it might be like have minimal enough delay where you might not even, you will still have to do this, but it might not be as like much you'll have to change because the even with capture card delay, there is still a little bit of delay before like when you press start and when this goes away, if that makes sense. So yeah, now that I've got that out the way, that's how the reset and the starting works. So in order to test whether you're you're starting on the correct frame rule and everything, you can also test using this exact same like AutoSplit setup. You can test in something like Kaname, the training suite. So if you just reset your live split, it should reset in AutoSplitter as well, as long as you have the integration set up. And then because it's still waiting for the black screen, it should work the same way. You just need to make sure that it won't work for splitting, obviously, because the counter is not there. But yeah, you need to make sure that you're on rule 0000 on 1-1, because then it just works as the normal game does. So let me show this here. Whoops. So there we'll start. So it should say framerule 24 in the top left, which it does. So yeah, framerule 24 is a delay of 8.52, I believe. So yeah, that works as I would expect. So yeah, you can test to see if you've got like the live split pretty accurately by doing that. Yeah, that's a good way to test to make sure that it does work as you expect it would. So yeah, I'm going to now explain a bit more about these split images. So as you can see, some of them have different names and you might be confused, and I also will explain why I have that 1-1 image. So the reset image here, I just did that by taking a screenshot when it was on the normal thing here, and then I take another screenshot when it goes to black. This image, you will have to call it reset or something. You have to put reset in the name somewhere, I believe. And in brackets, you see I have 0.99. What this means is that my threshold for resetting, so the similarity threshold for this specific image is 0.99 instead of the default 0.95, which you can change the default in here if you'd like to. So I have that as 0.99. Just, it never will happen, but I just thought in case, you know, you didn't want it to accidentally reset during a run, might as well have that high. And then in square brackets, I've got a 1. So 1 in this instance means the amount of pause time. So if I start a run here, you'll see that it goes paused and then however many seconds remaining. The default is 10, as shown here, and it's basically the amount of delay before it like moves to the next image, I guess. So for resetting and starting, because it's easy, because there's such like block colors, it's easy for it to accidentally start, and then if you had the reset pause time set as 10 seconds, it wouldn't automatically reset until the 10 seconds is up. So I just changed both of these to 1 because it just makes it, you know, it means that you don't have to wait at all. So like, it's hard to show it, but yeah, just do this. You can even do it lower than 1 if you want, but I haven't found any problem with that. And then for these split images, so these should all work. It should split all the way up to 8.4. However, when you get to 8.4, it's gonna likely like stop the auto splitter, or at least it was for me. It was stopping the auto splitter and it was looking for this start auto splitter again. And because it's just a black rectangle, it would trigger this every time you'd go through a pipe in 8.4 and it would split really early. So to prevent this, I set the loop last split image to first split image, and then I had my first split image as this 1-1 thing. However, there's documentation, there's notation that you can have to make it so that it splits, as in it goes to the next image, but it doesn't split on your live split, if that makes sense. So that's what this is. So in the curly brackets here, I have curly brackets, lowercase d, close curly brackets, and that means it's a dummy split. So that means it doesn't actually split on your live split. I'm saying split so much. But there's a whole tutorial here that shows all of the notation that you can do. It's a great like explanation of how it all works. So as you can see here, you can even have delay. You can have the amount of loops. You know, you can have split when similarity goes below. You know, you have all sorts of things to use here. So yeah, I think that's about everything I need to explain here. It should hopefully just work now. You know, when you go to use the AutoSplit, I'll show it is pretty accurate. So I'll show here like the split time for 1-1. It usually is about 29.7 on the dot if you do it at the right time. So yeah, I know a lot of my live split's massive, I know. But I've just beat 1-1. You can't even see, but as soon as that 1-2 shows up, it should split. Yeah, 29.68. So it's like pretty damn accurate, as long as you have the appropriate like starting value. So yeah, it should hopefully just work if you follow all the advice. I'm sorry this video is so long, but yeah, hopefully that should work. If you have any questions, please tell me in the comments, and if you have any suggestions for improvements, such as a way to make it work with the final split, that would be really cool to know. And yeah, thank you for watching.